guys, this is Jonathan from BroJMR, and we're going to get started today. Halloween 1 and 2. Now, I'm reviewing these together for the simple fact that they're meant to be together. Halloween 1 and 2 is telling one story. It takes place all in the same night. The second movie was shot 3 years later, but it picks up from literally the minute that the original left off. And they were always meant to be together. They were telling one big continuous story, and it was supposed to be all there was of this franchise. It was supposed to be the beginning, middle, and end of it. It was only supposed to ever be 2 movies. Now, obviously, it wasn't, but we're going to get into that when we get to the other movies. So, and even though these could be considered one long movie, I'm going to be reviewing them separately, even though I'm going to be talking about the overarching story among the whole thing. So let's start with Halloween. Now, I want to start literally before we even begin the movie with the title of the movie. John Carpenter did something brilliant by naming his movie Halloween. Now, you gotta remember, this was made in the late 70s. Halloween was not a scary time as much. It wasn't taken as it is now, as this season for horror movies and all things spooky. It was a kid's holiday. That's what it was. John Carpenter really helped make Halloween into what it is by making a horror movie called Halloween, even though it can be argued whether this is legitimately a horror movie. It is a horror movie. Let's not get into the semantics of that, because that is a conversation that you don't want to have with me, basically. So he made a horror movie called Halloween, set it on Halloween. It literally takes place on Halloween night, and he kind of changed the face of horror movies and the holiday all in one fell swoop, because John Carpenter is a genius. That's all there is to it. The opening credits are absolutely fantastic. The music, the Halloween theme, playing in the background. It's a jack-o'-lantern and the credits going right here next to it. Zooming in slowly on the jack-o'-lantern. It is a brilliant credit scene. It gets you completely in the mood for the movie. You don't even know that you're in the mood for the movie, but you get there. Watching this movie for the first time, seeing that, you're like, okay, I know what this movie's going to be about, even though I have no idea what this movie's going to be about. You already are prepared and ready for what's coming. The opening scene of Michael Myers, his first kill, 6 years old, all done from his point of view, to the point where when he picks up the mask and puts it on, it blocks out everything but the eyes. So you're seeing literally everything from his point of view. And even though it is a surprise at the end of that scene when you find out that he was just a child, once you know that and rewatch the scene, you can pick up little things like the size of his hand when he grabs a knife, his perspective, because they shot the entire thing from down low from a child's perspective. A technique that was also used in Child's Play to great effect. And now that's over. We cut to 15 years later, and the movie really starts. Now, this is a movie that's been around for 40 years. I'm not going to go super heavy into the storyline. Unstoppable killing machine going after somebody. Haddonfield, Illinois, a small town, set on Halloween night. You all know what's happening. You know the story. And once the real part of the story begins, you have Dr. Loomis going, finding out that Michael Myers has escaped. And I'm going to get more into Dr. Loomis. I'm kind of skipping over his character, and there's a reason for that. I'm going to focus on his character for my review of part 2. So just know that he's there. He's played brilliantly by Donald Pleasance. He has such a gravitas and a voice about him that he makes you really pay attention to the things that he's saying. He's very Shakespearean in his proclamation of the pure evil entity that is Michael Myers. Again, I'm gonna get to him, so don't think I'm just skipping over him. We get introduced to Laurie Strode, who's played brilliantly by Jamie Lee Curtis. We get introduced to her friends, who are played annoyingly by other actresses. I don't know. Their characters are awful. But it doesn't matter. The movie is about Michael Myers. And that's what we focus on, even though we don't see him. And that's the great thing. We have, probably 30, 45 minutes where we see Michael Myers, but we don't really see him. It's all focused on Jamie Lee Curtis and what she's doing. She's getting ready for Halloween night. She has to babysit. At one point, she actually stops at the Myers house because her dad is a realtor. And that's when you first see that he's in town. She has to stop by the Myers house to drop off a key because her dad is a realtor and is selling the place. She drops the key off on the porch. She turns around to leave. We have a shot from inside the house out the front door, and you see Myers' head just popped in a frame. Throughout the movie, you start to really, if you're really paying attention, especially if this is a repeated viewing, you can notice that he's almost always in the background somewhere. Either in the car, or there you see they might be down the street, they might be walking down the street, and you can see the car parked in the distance. They might be walking through a different part of the street, and you can see all these areas where he might be. You don't know that he's there, but you know that he's there. And I think it's this really brilliant thing that John Carpenter did, where he almost psychologically trained us to be on the lookout for him, even if he wasn't there. You're always expecting him to be there in the background somewhere, and more often than not, he is. You just don't know it. And you don't really see him. John Carpenter had this beautiful way of framing him from the shoulders down. You didn't see his head. You just saw this massive presence. And he was always shot in a perspective to make him look just huge. And a big part of that goes down to the performance of Nick Castle, who is the man who played the Shape. That's what he's mainly billed as, is the Shape. And he gave this incredible performance, lumbering, slow performance of him. And Nick Castle was a very, very large man. And so it added this weight, and that's something that's going to be brought, that I will be bringing up later in some of the other reviews. This is the one movie out of the whole franchise where it feels like Michael Myers is truly, truly, truly an actual representation of fear and evil. And it's because of his size and because of the way he moves. This is the only movie where Nick Castle played the Shape, up until the new one that comes out next week, because he comes back to do it, and I think that's fantastic. His performance as Myers really elevated the movie to another standard. This movie, I feel, in a lot of ways, is purposefully designed to make you uncomfortable. And this is something that John Carpenter did in a lot of his films. He did it in The Thing. He did it in The Fog. He designed his movies to make you enjoy what you're watching, and but you're slightly uncomfortable with what's happening and you don't know why. And the technique that he used in this movie to do that is he had, gosh, probably at least 7 or 8 of them. He had these long static shots where the camera was placed in one place. One of the ones that's popping into my mind, one of the main ones, is a shot of Laurie Strode and her friends just walking down the sidewalk. The camera is set far away, and you're literally seeing them walk this entire distance. Now, I don't know, and I just honestly don't know if static shots like that were kind of a norm in the 70s or not. But watching it now, especially, it's not something that we're used to. We're used to a lot more cuts in movies, but these long static shots, they go on for about 4 to 5 seconds longer than you're used to. Because you're watching it and you keep on feeling like, oh, it's going to cut away, it's going to cut away soon, but it doesn't. And it makes you uncomfortable without even realizing it because you're not used to it. And he uses those to great effects. He really loved these static shots where you're seeing what's going on in both the foreground and the background. Another very famous one is used at the very end of the movie, after Michael Myers has gone in and he's attacked Laurie Strode in the house and stuff like that. By the way, I'm going to be talking about these movies. There's going to be spoilers, so I'm sorry, get used to it. These movies are old. If you haven't seen them by now, then shame on you. Okay. He's already gone in and he's attacked Laurie Strode, and Laurie Strode feels that he's dead, thinks that he's dead. And she's sitting there in the living room, leaning up against this door frame, and you see her and you see Michael Myers in the background, and then you see Michael Myers sit up. He's out of focus, though. Laurie doesn't know that he's sat up, hasn't noticed him yet. She stands up, and then he stands up, and the focus shifts. The focus is on him, and she's slightly out of focus, even though she's in the foreground. It's things like that. It's little things like that that really elevate this movie, that make it what it is. This movie is like watching a master painter create a piece of art. John Carpenter is masterful, is a master filmmaker, and you're watching him create his greatest creation and seeing this movie. It's, some of the characters are annoying. It's a very, very slow-paced movie, but it's made that way on purpose, because he made the movie slow on purpose to fit in with what the character is. This character is slow, lumbering, unstoppable killing machine. And so the movie didn't need to be fast-paced and action-oriented, because that's not what the character was. And, of course, the end of the movie, Donald Pleasence, Dr. Loomis, comes in and shoots Michael Myers 6 times, and he falls out a window, and he lands on the ground, and he's dead, and they go out to look, and then his body's gone. What a great twist for the end of the movie. Now, let's move on to Halloween 2.